All right, so we're going to be going over chapter one of this book right here. And this book is everything that I've applied over the last 22 years, how you go after the market, how do you grow your used car business. And it's the used car manager's ultimate playbook. And this is chapter one. And so I'm going to have everybody kind of go through that chapter with me. And it's strategy and market position. This is really where you kind of design your roadmap. Right, so this is how to win your market, and we're going to go through each page. Shouldn't take too long, but you have to start with market data if you want to grow your business. And so you need to study your 30-day volume mix, day supply, price bands. What I mean by price bands is like your car's under 25 grand, or specialty vehicles, things like that. Top competitors, and turn this into a simple visual battle map you can use daily. So you look at it, and okay, these are my competitors, and a lot of times you'll identify certain individuals or certain stores that you never really would have thought were your competitors, but you have this can be time consuming. You've got to look at your radius. Is this a 10-mile radius, 20-mile radius around a map, and then pull up every used car player in that marketplace or that market space, that primary market, and you just go after them. And you got to know your competitors. So if you see somebody that has a big inventory, 300-400 used cars or 500 used cars, and you're like, okay, so what are these guys doing? And then so you go under Google, or there's different websites you can go under to find out what kind of traffic is that customer getting, or do they have a high bounce rate? And those could be an opportunity. You can use conquest ads and strategic positioning in your ads to steal their actual traffic. And then you've got to match to your market mix. So you've got to stock what your zip code actually buys. If your mix is off by 10%, you're literally leaving massive money on the table. And I've seen it time and time again. Like you don't realize what you're losing. You'll say, okay, so I'm missing some Corollas, or I'm missing some small RAV4s. If you're a Toyota store, if you're a Nissan store, you're missing some Sentras. If you're a Chevy store, you don't have any Tahoes. Why don't you have any Tahoes? But you'll be leaving a lot of money on the table. And so you got to build predictive KPIs. Now KPIs, that's where you can predict wins, right? Like your market share, days to front line, your turn rate. These things tell you where momentum is headed. And when I look at your holding costs, things like that, like if you've got some inventory that, hey, these are some unique vehicles, have good eyeball, but they got 150 days supply, and your holding costs are $20-$30 a day, you've got a problem. You may not want to hang on to that one that long, unless you you're going to sell and make a 20-pounder or something. So in those scenarios, you've got to see where you draw the line. And then there's daily operating rhythm. So this is where you have to do this every day. And when I mean every day, like going to the gym every day. Nobody wants to do that, but you should, because you live longer and you'll be healthier and you look good, right? Daily operating rhythm, same exact thing. I can't stress it enough. PM, gross review, pricing rank, recon, approvals, like you have to figure out, okay, in the morning, I've got to do this every day. I've got to look at at least find out where I'm priced at in the market. Is the market moving? Where are my aged inventory? Things like that, right? Midday BDC sync. Okay, so it's midday. Listen to a couple phone calls, look at some leads, see how they're handling them. Are they really engaging with the prospects? Are the volleys being created? Is there opportunity for you to help the sales team, BDC team, pick up an opportunity and sell a car? And then you've got the PM, photos, what happened, with your picture taker, the descriptions, are they all generic? Are they really good descriptions to catch the audience that looks at these cars? And of course, aging review. Look at your aged cars. Are you going on your 15, 45-day walks, old age inventory walks? Discipline builds momentum. You know, I've been doing this for 22 years, and I can tell you that there's not many people in this industry that can stay disciplined at doing these daily tasks every day. And the more you can stay on it, the more likely you're to succeed and beat everybody. You know, I heard a quote the other day and says, "Volume negates luck." The more you can do this stuff time in, time out, you're no longer lucky. It's something that you do that you end up dominating in whatever you're doing. So think of that next time. Identify market gaps. Every market has gaps. There's segments there that I know dealers are missing out on. I'll give you a quick study. When I moved into the Oklahoma market, we identified some areas where they were low on in the marketplace, not our inventory specifically, but the other dealers, like the BMW dealers, Land Rover dealers. When I was looking at the Mercedes inventory, if I was looking at Nissan, I could see that there's different makes that Honda wasn't carrying, other Nissan stores, other Toyota wasn't carrying. So guess what? We went after those low-hanging fruit. Lexus wasn't carrying certain models of used cars, or they had a bunch of white vehicles, like maybe they had nothing but white RAV4s at the Toyota store, and we went and picked up some black and silver RAV4s. Guess what? For me, it was common sense, but you'd be surprised how many used car managers are so in the grind and missing things on a daily basis that they don't have time to go and look at these market gaps that you can quickly fill. But then that's why companies like Carvana and CarMax come in and just dominate a marketplace, because they're in there looking at everybody's inventory and finding where are those gaps. And that's where you turn data into action, right? High bounce rate, run conquest, short on trucks, increase trade walk, aged units, reprice 2 to 3%, and push traffic. You know, if you start pricing your inventory on Wednesday, now I recommend you price it every day, but if you're gonna just be that operator that just does it once a week, Wednesdays would be ideal, because you got to think, by the time, if you're on Car Gurus, Cars.com, Auto Trader, all these other third-party lead providers, it usually takes 72 hours to propagate. Once you reprice day one, it'll take 72 hours to price through. Now, you know, there's some advances in technology that time frame is probably shortened a little bit, but not by much. But if you reprice 2 to 3%, you'll be surprised how many times all of a sudden you get a bunch of leads. So don't be too, in love with the inventory. I had a used car manager always say, "This isn't a museum. We're here to move this inventory," and that's the kind of thing that stuck with me as my career progressed. Checklist. Make sure you have daily, weekly, monthly checklists. Daily price rank, aging, traffic review, weekly mixed audit, BDC metrics, monthly net to gross. What's your net to gross? What's your market share? Lot audit. Those are the things that you have to look at on a daily basis, weekly, monthly. Remember this, what gets measured improves. And if you do not measure anything, there's no way to improve. So, focus on those core principles that can help you grow in any market, whether it's a down market or an up market. Here's an example I did for a friend of mine. And, you can go in here and look at all of these different, who's your real players, right? Like I go in here and I can say, okay, well, these guys are probably the big dogs, because they've got to be selling north of 200 used cars. But what you look at is who's at the very top. Let me show you who's the top player right here, CarMax, right? They've got 580 cars in stock. These ones, I mean, you got this Mercedes store that's on fire, and you got these other two stores that are pretty big, but then everyone else. And so then I look at these ones down here. These are the ones that are probably the most important ones, because these are the operators that really don't care. They're not going for more. So I'll go in there and I'll find out, okay, so what are their organic clicks? So this will tell me how many organic words, monthly organic clicks right here. And you can see, okay, some of these are getting a lot of traction for not a lot of real effort. If they've got 83 cars in stock, but they got 45,000 organic clicks, I may want to stock some of that inventory that they're sleeping on. They're not stocking certain vehicles. This Ford dealer, this Cadillac dealer, this Porsche store, this Volvo, probably brands you don't want to stock, but here's a Land Rover dealer. I can tell you, most of those dealers aren't carrying a lot of used cars in stock, and those are the ones you can pick up pretty quickly. You can pick up, and they're big grocers too. So find some inventory that they're sleeping on, and then you go to your competitors. Okay, so what's CarMax stocking, and that's a pretty big indicator of what's missing in this marketplace right here. So you can look at this inventory. There's 3,700 cars in stock, and they own the lion's share of it, right? So I go in here and I say, okay, they got 580 out of 37. They got 15% of the market in used cars. And okay, so let's look at that. And so you dig a little deeper, and then you can see even this Toyota store only has 71 new cars. The Mitsubishi store, look at that. They're what, 3-to-1, 4-to-1 used to new, which is awesome. The Audi store's got about 100. So there's some low-hanging fruit in here. And that's where the real work. It's easy to grab all of this data and say, okay, what now? Well, the next step is, okay, so first let's identify the low-hanging fruit quickly, and then let's go dig deeper into their actual inventory and see what's missing. And what you'll find is the Hyundai store is missing some Elantras, or doesn't have any Santa Fe's, or they only have white cars, or they're missing black and silver. And when I go out and I go buy and source vehicles, I'm only looking for black, white, and silver. Blue, brown, yellow, any of those, obscure colors, stay around brown. There's a bunch of different things for different vehicles. So stay away from those, but this gives you a pretty good snapshot of, okay, what can I do with this information, and more importantly, what can I do with it? So this is your market plan. This is and you've got to pull this every month, because you will find blind spots these other dealers are sleeping on. And that's chapter 1.